the Chi-Town experience on the flight. Let me go tune in to Keek on the mic. He gon' make sure we get our news and highlights. When you get on YouTube, you better hit the lights.
New Chicago Bears head coach Ben Johnson has been busy building a strong staff here in Chicago with names that include Dennis Allen, Antwaan Randle, and even Al Harris, but there's still a huge question mark on who his new O-line coach would be. But it seems that Ben Johnson may have found his new O-line coach, and Bears fans, it would be a major upgrade. Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. So, Bears fans, as we all know, for the last couple of days, Ben Johnson has been really busy assembling, in my personal opinion, a star-studded staff. Just as of yesterday, during Championship Sunday, they officially hired Dennis Allen as the new defensive coordinator, Declan Doyle as their new OC. They've already hired Al Harris as their secondaries coach, and obviously Antwaan Randle as wide receivers and assistant head coach of the Chicago Bears. So far, so good for Ben Johnson as he continues to assemble a really strong staff here in Chicago. But there's been a lot of Bears fans, including myself, asking the same question over and over again. And that question is, who will his new O-line coach be? Because in my personal opinion, and a lot of Bears fans have these same concerns, that the O-line coach for Ben Johnson's staff is probably going to be one of his most important hires. Once again, we're going from Chris Morgan, which was not very good in his stint here in Chicago. So Ben Johnson needs to find a major upgrade from a guy like Chris Morgan. Here's the good news, Bears fans. It seems that Ben Johnson may have found his new O-line coach, and I personally believe that it would be a major upgrade. And this was according to Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune. He was pointing out Dan Roushar as a possible option for Ben Johnson's staff to be the new O-line coach of the Chicago Bears. He is 64 years old, and we talked a little bit about Roushar on a couple of videos ago right here on Keek on the Mic. Roushar is 64 years old and has coached various offensive positions in college and NFL level dating back to 1986. He's the current O-line coach of Tulane, but had a long stint in the NFL with the Saints from 2013 to 2022, where he served as the running backs coach, tight end coach, O-line coach, and run game coordinator for the New Orleans Saints. And over that stint, Roushar had a strong reputation of developing some notable studs for the Saints, guys like Doug Free, Andres Pete, Teron Armstead, Larry Warford, Ryan Ramczyk, Eric McCoy, and Cesar Ruiz. So it would be no question that this guy has what it takes, the experience, the knowledge to really develop guys at a high level. Had some really good sense of creating Pro Bowl talent of the guys that I just listed. And obviously, Ben Johnson is wanting to hire guys on his coaching staff that have massive experience, guys that can come in and be leaders for their position groups. And Dan Roushar has some massive experience. So Bears fans, how do you feel about a guy like Dan Roushar coming in here and being the new offensive line coach for the Chicago Bears? But I feel like he is not the only option. Obviously, Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune pointed him out as a strong option and candidate to be a part of Ben Johnson's staff. But I want to talk about two other options that would be really intriguing for Ben Johnson to consider as the next offensive line coach for the Chicago Bears. I know a lot of people are going to be sitting here saying, well, Keek, why are we really focusing on the offensive line? It's because the Chicago Bears haven't had a good offensive line in a very long time, and that has a lot to do with the coaches that they've brought in here in Chicago to develop the guys that we have, and I think it's going to be a really important hire for Ben Johnson. So, Bears fans, let's go ahead and talk about a couple of other options other than Dan Roushar to be the next offensive line coach for the Chicago Bears. And I don't know why people are not talking about this name a lot in regard to becoming a new offensive line coach for the Chicago Bears, and that is Mike Munchak. I think everyone should know who Mike Munchak is. To me, he is one of the better offensive line coaches in the NFL. He's currently not coaching right now. I mean, he took a step back from the NFL back in 2021 to spend more time with his family. I do know that he was an offensive consultant for the Los Angeles Rams from 2023 and 2024. Once again, took a step back from coaching to spend more quality time with his family. But I am hearing that he is interested in making a return to the NFL. But once again, Mike Munchak has some massive experience as an offensive line coach. It started in 1994 with the Houston Oilers as an offensive assistant coach. And then from 1995 to 1996 with the Houston Oilers, he was the offensive quality control coach. Then and with the Tennessee Oilers and the Tennessee Titans from 1997 to 2010, he was the offensive line coach where he produced a lot of good offensive linemen from that span and offensive line groups in that span. Then he became the head coach of the Tennessee Titans from 2011 to 2013. Wasn't really a good stint for him as a head coach, went 22-26, but once again, Ben Johnson has made it very clear that he wants to bring coaches in that have prior experience, maybe as head coaches, maybe as players, all that good stuff. Just like we know when we're talking about Dennis Allen, the experience he had as a head coach, even though it didn't work out for Dennis Allen as a head coach, it could be helpful for Ben Johnson to bring in guys like Mike Munchak, obviously having Dennis Allen as your DC, to help guide him as a first-time head coach. Going back to his experience, he was the offensive line coach from 2014 to 2018 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then from 2019 to 2021, he was the offensive line coach for the Denver Broncos. And then just like I mentioned, he was the offensive consultant for the Los Angeles Rams from 2023 to 2024. Then took a step back as a coach to spend some more time with his family. And then this would be a perfect opportunity for the Chicago Bears to get an outstanding coach like Mike Munchak. The other thing I really like about Munchak is that he is also a Pro Football Hall of Famer playing the guard position. He got inducted in 2001. He was a first-round pick in 1982, pick number 8, and had a Hall of Fame career at the guard position. So he played the position at a high level. And this goes back to my point about Ben Johnson wanting to bring in former players. Al Harris, a Packers legend. Antwaan Randle won a Super Bowl in 2005 with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I like the trend already that Ben Johnson is going down. That's why I feel like Mike Munchak would be a strong candidate for the offensive line position. Once again, this guy is considered league-wide as one of the best offensive line coaches in NFL, has a strong reputation of developing talent, guys like Taylor Lewan, Garrett Bowles for the Denver Broncos, and he's just well respected around the league. He instills the discipline and coaches physicality and technique and develops guys the right way, and that's something that guys like Darnell Wright, Braxton Jones really need. We have some other young guys on this offensive line. So I think since he's been there, done that, not only as a coach, but being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a guard back in 2001 would be huge experience and would be a major upgrade. Going from Chris Morgan to Mike Munchak would be huge for Ben Johnson's staff, and it would be huge for the Chicago Bears offensive line. Every stop he has been at as an offensive line coach, you talk about the physicality that he has produced on his offensive line, really producing strong run games when he's in charge of the offensive line as well. And I know that's really a huge factor for Ben Johnson's offense is running the football effectively, really helping Caleb Williams as well. But the big thing about helping Caleb Williams is making sure he has a strong running game and a strong offensive line in front of him. And I just feel like Mike Munchak would be an outstanding option for the Chicago Bears moving forward. So Bears fans, I'm not sure how you feel about a guy like Mike Munchak, but let me know your opinions on him down below in the comment section. The last guy that would be really intriguing, and I know it's highly unlikely, but I know he's a Chicago Bears legend, and I know there's a lot of Chicago Bears fans that have mentioned his name, and that is Olan CRouts. Everyone knows Olan CRouts. He's a Chicago Bears legend, played for the Chicago Bears, for 10 plus years. He was a staple for the Chicago Bears offensive line for years and years and years. He's still highly involved on social media, giving his opinions on the Chicago Bears offensive line, giving his opinions on the Chicago Bears in general. He would, to me, instill the physicality and can really, teach these players what it means to be a Chicago Bear and to really play with pride in the city of Chicago. I know the fans would be receptive to a guy like Olan CRouts. The only thing about CRouts that I don't like is that he has no coaching experience at the NFL level or the college level. He's currently an assistant coach at a high school in Illinois. So there's no coaching experience. But once again, going back to what Ben Johnson is kind of looking for in coaches, going back to having former players like Al Harris, Antwaan Randle, well. But the only difference is that Antwaan Randle, Al Harris, JT Barrett, they actually have NFL coaching experience. So once again, I think Olan CRouts would be the last resort. And I truly think that Olan CRouts would come back and be the offensive line coach for the Chicago Bears. But once again, I think it would be an interesting hire. I think it would definitely be a risk. And I'm pretty sure a lot of Bears fans, I think they would like to take that risk just because he's a Chicago Bears legend. Doesn't mean he would be a good coach. I think he would instill, like I said, the discipline, the physicality on the offensive line. But the big question on Olan CRouts is, would he be able to develop these guys to a new level? And that's something that he hasn't done because he doesn't have a lot of coaching experience at the college or NFL level. So just a name that I thought I would throw out, just since he's a Chicago Bears legend. He has been very vocal on how bad the offensive line has been for the last couple of years. And I just want to throw out that name. So how do you guys feel about the possibility of Olan CRouts being on Ben Johnson's staff as the offensive line coach? So overall, I think Ben Johnson is definitely going to have his options to upgrade that coach in regard to the offensive line coach. Once again, Dan Roushar would be a really, really good offensive line coach for Ben Johnson. And of course, Mike Munchak would be also an outstanding hire for Ben Johnson as well. It's just about if he wants to come back to coaching. I know he is interested, but just wants to come back to the right situation. I think he would be pretty interested in, especially what the Chicago Bears have built with Caleb Williams and now Ben Johnson as the new head coach of the Chicago Bears. So overall, Bears fans, Ben Johnson is very close to completing his staff here in Chicago. Once again, starting off with some really good hires in Al Harris, Antwaan Randle, Dennis Allen. I know Declan Doyle. There's a lot of people kind of, there's still question marks on him, but I think it's okay because he's not really calling offensive plays. But so far, so good for Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears, but there's still major question marks on who his new O-line coach will be. But once again, there is some solid options. But other than that, Bears fans, make sure you guys continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms. And make sure you share this episode of Kick on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, be back for our all-new Bears podcast right here on Kick on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and as always, bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic.